If you like ducks, dogs, training, deer hunting, anything outdoors, then this is the podcast for you guys. This is the Flying V Podcast. I'm Thaddeus Bash. I'm your host for this beautiful ride, and I'm assisted by my co-host, Mr. Changmore Vang. You can tune in every week and join us as we talk about anything and everything under the moon that you guys want us to talk about. Some facts, some fiction, and a whole lot of opinions. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Let's hop into it.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the podcast, and welcome back to another week of the Flying V Podcast. That is, I'm super excited this week, guys. This is one of these states when I first came up with this idea that I was super excited to talk about, and that feeling still rings true. The guest we have lined up for you this week is gonna live up to our expectations. Last week, Haley set the bar pretty high with Alaska, but this week with Alabama, but this week with Alaska, this one's going to be a hard episode to talk. Our guest, Scott, is from Alaska, and he does all kinds of waterfowl hunting out there. And Alaska's been one of the states that's on my hit list of curiosity. I'm really excited to hear some of the stories you can tell, and just the different type of ducks you can talk about. So I also went on Instagram and did a poll. So we're going to be having some follower questions asked for him today as well. 10 out of 10. This will probably be one of my favorite episodes we do out of all of these states. We got Vang in here. Vang, how you been, buddy?
What's up, brother?
Like we always do, how's your week been without me?
Oh man, I don't even know what I did. I can't even recall what happened. This week just went by. I'm just so excited for these podcasts now.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. What about you, brother?
Dude, I'm kind of in the same boat as you, honestly. I feel like it hasn't been a week since we last talked, because between editing the podcast and then like Thursday we did the premiere of the podcast, and I was answering questions about it and talking about it last week, and then the weekend came, and I kind of had a lazy weekend where I just sat around and worked around the house, and we're getting ready to move, so we've been like slowly packing stuff around the house, and dude, it's been busy. So then, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's been a week, but like you said, I'm not complaining. I've been talking about this one every day. And like I said, I think Alaska, this one's probably going to be the best. I told Scott when I talked to him earlier, I was like, hey, man, you got some big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
But I don't think we got a problem. So, Scott, can you hear us?
Yep. Hey, I got you. You got me okay?
Yes, sir. All right.
Yeah.
So, real quick, Scott, if you want to just go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone, tell us what's your name, where you're from, what you do now.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, I'm Scott Breitspecker. I grew up in small little rural town in Iowa, right on the Mississippi River, and joined the Army back in '89 and traveled around, did a lot of cool stuff, and ended up here in Alaska a couple times, and I got back up here in 2016 and decided to stay, and now Alaska's home.
Where in Alaska are you?
So I'm right outside of Anchorage, small town, Eagle River. I'm not even sure how big it is. It's kind of suburbish.
Okay. So the Army took you to Alaska a couple times, right?
They did. Yeah, I spent 3 years up in Fairbanks, which is in the interior of the state. And then I was down here in Fort Richardson. It's down right in Anchorage. I was there twice. Yep. And
so what was the deciding factor on, hey, I'm moving to Alaska now?
Well, the first time it was like a lifelong, well, I wouldn't say lifelong dream, because I didn't understand much about Alaska until I joined the Army, and then I talked to people that were up here. And growing up in Iowa, I was I loved to hunt and fish and do all that as a kid, and I ran into people in the military that were stationed up here, and they showed me all these cool pictures of big king salmons and moose and caribou and sheep and goats, and I was like, you know what, that's the place for me. I need to go there. I didn't have any idea how good the upland and waterfowl hunting was going to be here at the time. I was focused, at that time I was focused on big game stuff. Yeah. And I got up here and I was pretty surprised the second time I came back up.
Okay. And then you're just like, you know what, fuck it, I'm moving to Alaska.
Well, yeah. Well, so I was down in Washington State, and I was like, I got to get the hell out of here. So I called my manager for my branch, and he asked me where I wanted to go, and I said, I want to go to Alaska or Europe. And he says, well, you had a couple assignments in Europe, and they sucked. So he said, I can get you into Anchorage, and I was like, done deal. I'll take it.
Yeah.
'Cause this is where I wanted to be. This is where my wife and we wanted to come up here and retire.
Okay.
And yeah, so and that was it. We came up here and we bought a house, and I knew I was, 3 to 6 years away from retirement, and we just started to kind of get entrenched and living the life up here.
Hell yeah. Okay. So, Alaska's always been kind of like a fascinating place to me. I've never got to visit. I'd like to one day, without a doubt. Beautiful country. But it feels like, I don't know, to me, like Alaska just feels like it's not even part of the United States. It feels like a whole separate world on its own. You know what I mean?
Because it's so far away. That's why.
Yeah. So
yeah, we're living in igloos up here, right?
Yeah. Well, and like they make all these TV shows about Alaska and like almost like fairy tale it, and like when we talk, like when you hear about politics and everything on the news, like you never hear about shit going on in Alaska. So it's kind of one of those like like forgotten states. You know what I mean? Do you like living in Alaska? Do you ever feel like you're like left out of America?
That is a good question.
Sometimes you kind of do, because really we weren't affected by a lot of the politics. We're not affected by a lot of the craziness going on in the lower 48 right now. And, the housing market, when it crashed, it didn't really crash up here. I mean, we kind of maintain a good solid line, and, it's pretty steady.
So Alaska, Alaska is like its own independent state, like states were intended to be.
Well, we'd like to think so, but we have our own issues up here too.
Cool. Well, maybe I'll move to Alaska one day.
Hey, yeah, you come up here, you might not leave.
That's fine. I'm sure the weather's a lot better than Louisiana is.
Well, boy, it depends on what you think is better. Yeah, like right now, I'm sitting on my back porch. It's in the mid 50s, kind of cloudy, but I'm out here in a t-shirt, and I think it's great.
Yeah. Well, that sounds really great. I don't know if you caught our conversation. I took Boone out, went to air out the dog, and it's like 90% humidity right now. I came in just dripping sweat, so I had to do like a quick hoe bath and throw a new t-shirt on.
Yeah, no, you can have that, man. That's the one reason I like it up here. We don't have that humidity. It's just, even when it's hot, and when I say hot, it's in 70s, 80s, and you get 90s. But I mean, it's dry. It's not that super humid, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, kind of miserable hot. Or even, Minnesota gets pretty humid up there too. Yeah.
Oh, we sure do.
Yeah.
But when it's cold, it's cold.
Yeah.
Well, here,
that's the other thing.
Yeah, Vane, you'll appreciate this. Where I live here in Eagle River, there's a lot of times during the winter, it's warmer here than it is from northeast Iowa, where I grew up.
See, that doesn't make sense. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in Indiana, and I always loved Indiana. And then I'd never been to the South really until the Marine Corps, and then we went to Carolina and came to Louisiana. And I've never, like, even growing up in Indiana, I mean, summers there were pretty hot. They still are, but I always hated summer. I've never been a fan of being hot. I've always been a winter person, so I don't know why we've stayed in Louisiana as long as we have. But
hey, man, ask yourself that, because you just buy yourself a house down there.
Yeah, shit happens, I guess. But so I might be fond of Alaska. I'm definitely gonna travel there one day.
Well, if you ever decide to come up, just give me a shout. I tell a lot of people that, and very few people take me up on it. So if you decide you want to come up here one day, let me know.
You don't have to doubt me one bit. As long as I can get the blessing from the other side of the house, then
yeah,
I'll hop on a flight. But we'll go ahead and hop into it, man. I'm excited to talk about some freaking waterfowl up in Alaska. I think we talked with Alabama last week. I don't know if you got the chance to listen to it, but Alabama, it's gonna be hard to get through these A states, man. And Alabama, she said basically all they kill is wood ducks down there.
Oh wow.
And that's it. So the South waterfowl hunting is like hit or miss, kind of like I was telling you about. But
Did anyone from Alabama comment and say they killed other things?
they didn't, because they don't.
All right, then there it is. She wasn't wrong.
She didn't lie.
Well, on an opening weekend. Oh, until the puddle ducks get out of my area, it is not uncommon to go down and shoot an 8-man limit and have up to 5 different species in your bag.
Just opening weekend.
Oh, all the way through. I mean, as it gets colder, the teal get out of here earlier.
Yeah.
We have green wing, blue wings. The widgeon are around late. The bluebills are around late. Mallards, they stick around for quite a while too.
Yeah.
Some of the geese are getting out of here earlier. The speckled bellies and stuff like that, they're out early, and Canadians are out of here mid-October-ish. It depends on where you're hunting in the state, because Alaska is a huge state.
Yeah.
And depending on where you're at and what you're doing. But when my local duck hunt close to Eagle River here, I'll go down there, and we got, mallards, widgeon, pintails, bluebills, and the great spoonie, of course.
Yeah.
And what else am I forgetting? Green wing, blue wing, teal, get some ring nets coming through. Snow geese, they're not super common, but in the last couple of years we've been shooting, a few of them here and there. We got sandhill cranes, Canadians. I mean, we get them coming through. I've never shot one down where I hunt, but I've had flocks go over, and I just, I'm never set up for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so we got a broad spectrum of waterfowl that we can hunt up here, and that's just in my area right here.
Yeah.
And then you talk sea ducks and sandhill cranes. You go out to Cold Bay and you're shooting, brant and cacklers and.
Yeah. Yep. So you live in heaven, basically.
Pretty close.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. I think our quest to find the best waterfowl state already ended, and we just got started. That sounds pretty perfect.
Well, like the only thing I mentioned to you earlier, the only bad part about hunting up here is if you're looking for a nice, pretty duck, you're not going to get it until right towards the end of the season. None of our ducks are really plumed out until late September. Early October is probably. Mid-October is when you're going to, shoot some nice colored up birds, but they're definitely not what they look like when they get down to you.
Yeah. So with that, do you have trouble like IDing when you're shooting birds? What are the limits in Alaska?
So the puddle ducks where I hunt here, it's a 8, and I think just about all the way across the state is a 8-man limit. Sea ducks is for the most part a 10 duck limit, and then you got sandhill cranes. It could be 2 to 3 depending on the area you're in.
Okay.
And the geese are, I think it's 8 in possession, or I mean 8 daily limit, and I think 24 possessions. So 3 daily limit. Sometimes it's 6. Yep.
Are your ducks, do you guys have like caps on species? Like you can only shoot X amount of mallards?
No. No, they group them. Yeah, they group them all. Yeah, there's
sounds like heaven.
Yeah, there's no like no hen mallard limit, no mallards, widgeon, there's no combinations. It's puddle ducks basically, and you can have 8 of them.
So you can just go shoot 8 mallard hens and go home.
If that's what you wanted to do, that's what you could do.
What?
Yeah,
that is awesome.
I shouldn't say that. I mean, myself and some of the guys I know, I try not to shoot hens, but it's really hard sometimes because in the early season they all look like hens, even the mallard, the drake.
Juvenile mallards and
yeah. I mean, they're all, even the adult drakes, they're not really plumed up either. I mean, once you shoot them, you can see some green starting to come through usually.
Yeah.
But as the season goes on, if I have a big group of birds come in or a group of birds, I'm trying to pull the drakes out of there and shoot them.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, early season it's tough. It's just they come in. You can tell the way they fly. You can you know what they are, but you don't know if it's the sex. So a lot of times you're just you're shooting them.
That's just the limit itself. That's just mind boggling to me because like here we can shoot 6 ducks. No more than 4 can be mallards, 2 drakes, or no more than 2 can be hens. Like 3 wood ducks. You can only shoot 1 pintail.
Oh wow!
So like our puddle ducks are strictly limited.
Yep. So I do have a caveat now. Now the canvas backs there is a limit on them. Last year it was 2.
Okay.
So there is they do limit them. But that would be the only one.
Well, if that's the only one that's limited, I mean you can remember that,
Yeah, and you can tell the cans when they're coming in. I mean they're pretty easy to identify just in flight. I've never shot one of those and been like, oh man,
like around here, like our bigger puddle ducks, they fly together. They come in like your gadwall and your widgeon and mallards. I mean, you'll see them flying together, and they'll come into spreads together. And I guess that's the cool part about being there is if you overshoot one and sink another one, that's not $1,000 fine. Like
it is not. No.
Down here, I mean, I'm not going to say like I don't want to encourage bad things, but like if you did get caught,
right,
then yeah, you're going to pay a hefty fine. I mean, so I guess that's pretty cool. And you can shoot 8 ducks. I mean, the mallard limit here like really only applies to lucky people. We don't really get a lot of mallards as it is. The wood duck limit being 3, we see so many wood ducks that I think they have to have a wood duck limit. Otherwise, like in the first 2 weeks of season, there would no longer be a wood duck population.
Hey, and that is one of the ducks that we don't have up here that I wish we did. Because I grew up, I grew up in Northeast Iowa, and I used to kind of jump shoot them out of the small ponds and stuff. But it wasn't really till I moved out to Washington State, and there was a couple back ponds and little creeks I used to float with my canoe and jump shoot wood ducks. And then when I was growing up, I worked for the Fish and Wildlife Service for 2 years, and we actually banded them, and that was another thing. So wood ducks, they have a special place in my heart. I wish we had them up here because they're beautiful ducks. Yeah. My buddy up in Wisconsin hunts them, and they hunt them out in a cornfield, and he says they decoy in better than mallards. They just come just screaming in.
Yeah, it's got to come back down to the lower 48 then. One time.
That's my plan. I'm gonna come back down. I want to hunt with Mike up in Wisconsin and hunt these wood ducks up in the fields.
Oh yeah, I'll trade you a wood duck timber hunt of a lifetime for a trip to Alaska.
Right.
That's easy.
Hey, we might need to talk about that.
There's one thing that's one thing I don't take for granted is the wood ducks here because like I said, they're so thick and they for the most part they go to the same spots every morning.
Right.
They could come in one morning in a big group of 20 wood ducks fly in and you kill 6 of them and tomorrow morning they're coming right back there at the same time. So that's the good thing about being in Louisiana is if the migration sucks and there's not a lot of ducks in the area, you can almost always go to certain spots that we have and at least shoot your wood duck limit and go home or go to Waffle House and get breakfast. I mean, it's so that is the plus side. And wood ducks are one of the finest eating ducks in my opinion.
Oh yeah, they're good.
Yeah. So so you said you just started getting into like sea duck hunting?
I did, yeah. So last year was my first year I went out. I got several friends, they've been doing it several years. I got a good friend, he's Hugh Clark, he's the president of Alaska Waterfowl Association. He would have been another good guy to have on here. But he's been doing it for several years now. Another retired Army guy came up and kind of when he was getting ready to take over as president of Alaska Waterfowl. I kind of got involved with that association for a while, and but he does a lot of that, and he kind of finally, he posted enough pictures that I'm like, man, I got to go out and hunt these birds, And
Yeah.
I did a hunt last fall, and we went out, left Whittier, Alaska. It's about an hour south of here. Met our guide. We hopped in his boat. We went out, stayed the night on the boat. He has a big, 26, 32 foot big aluminum boat, right?
Yeah.
And, so in the morning we wake up, we pulled up in this cove, we're anchored in, gets up, we hop in skiffs, run over to the beach, throw out some decoys, and basically we're just sitting there waiting, and here they come,
Yeah.
we shot a lot of golden eyes, some scoters, I was really after a longtail, but a couple of my other buddies had some birds on their wish list, which, and my friend from Wisconsin came up. So I was like, you work on getting him what he wants. I'm just here to have fun. I'll have other opportunities.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a great hunt though. I mean, and man, they decoy in so good. I mean, you're shooting them at, 20 yards right over top of the decoys.
Yeah.
And they're dead. I mean, when they come in, they are feet down and they're coming. It's fun, and it's a great experience. You go out and spend the night in the boat, and it was our guide, his Crazy Rays, and it was him and his wife and another guy that they had was like their assistant guide or whatever. But they put on a nice spread. They cook up a few ducks for you at the evening meal we had, and cooked a good breakfast. It's just a great experience. There's other places where they'll just take you out for a day. You meet them at the dock. They run you out. You hunt, come back in that evening.
Yeah.
But doing that whole overnight thing is like a great Alaska experience.
No, that sounds awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you're out there in Prince William Sound, and it's you're the glaciers, the mountains, the goats up in the mountains. It's just a stunning place to be that time of year. And this was right before Thanksgiving, so it was a little cool, but it wasn't freezing cold.
Yeah.
Scott, when does your season start?
Well, so duck season starts September 1st, and
Okay.
we the inland, like the puddle duck season ends the middle of December, and sea ducks, I want to say, run till the end of January. I haven't hunted them that late, and like I said, I'm just kind of getting into it. But I have German wire-haired pointers, and so I'll start hunting ptarmigan and grouse the 10th of October. That season opens for us, and I'll do that for a few weeks. Then it leads into waterfowl hunting, and then after, in between there, I'll rotate, do some waterfowl, do some upland. If I go up into the interior of the state to hunt sandhills, which I usually do, we'll go out and shoot our sandhills in the morning, and then we'll go, grouse hunting, ptarmigan hunting in the afternoon, and do that. But then my season, my hunting upland waterfowl season doesn't really end till the end of March. I'm hunting ptarmigan and grouse off my snow machine with my dogs above tree line in late March. Yeah.
It sounds like I really need to come up to Alaska now. The way you're telling me these stories.
I mean, when you guys watch this video, if you, I mean, I'm like just fucking mind blown, dude. Like my mouth is literally just dropped. I mean, I feel like a little kid, like just watching a movie. Like I don't even. I'm speechless. Like, you're gonna have to ask some questions, man.
What
took my breath away?
I'm trying to gather thoughts.
If you're willing to travel a little bit, so I try to do a Cold Bay trip every other year. So we from Anchorage to get to Cold Bay, it's about a 2.5 to 3 hour flight. Depends on what you're flying on, because they get you out there on a couple different aircrafts. And if you're a 737, it's not as long. But anyway, you get out there, and I've all but 1 year I've always stayed at this Eisenbeck Lodge. We go out there, and the previous owner and the new owner who just took over this year, they have decoys out there. You get a truck rental, which is like a beat up piece of crap Alaska bush village truck, you know. It runs though, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, you go out there and it's all do it yourself. You know, and I'll fly some out, or I'll send some, you know, socks out prior to, take some decoys out with us, and we'll go out there and use, you know, the lodges, brant decoys and goose decoys to hunt them. And then you know, then we'll go up, and after we get our brant taken care of, we'll go up in the tundra and we'll set up for Canadians. You know, we'll put out 24, 36, whatever goose decoys, usually socks.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then we'll hunt them. You know, you can shoot 6 of them out there. But you know, that's a great experience too. You're doing multiple things, and if the fish are cooperating, you can catch silvers and steelheads right there within minutes of where our lodge is. But I should say lodge is kind of like a really nice camp.
I now know why you moved to Alaska.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sold.
Yeah.
You need a neighbor?
Yeah.
So, you know, when I was getting ready to retire out of the Army, I was back in Iowa, Wisconsin. You know, my friends and I were out at the bar one night, and somebody, you know, acquaintance of mine I knew from high school or whatever, come up and they're like, "Oh, hey Scott, you're retiring. When are you moving back home?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not coming back here." They're like, "What?" Then they were totally shocked. And my other buddy who really knows me, my close friend, he goes, "Man, that guy's up in Alaska. Why in the hell would he want to come to Iowa?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
right.
Yeah. And that kind of that's kind of where I'm at, you know.
So-
Go
ahead,
ahead,
Dad.
Bing. No.
Oh. Okay. Well, okay. So now with hearing all your stories and stuff, and your waterfowl stories and stuff, what I'm gonna ask you, what is your best like recipe cooking ducks? Like, if you're willing to share.
So, you know, I got a couple favorites.
Okay.
If I'm going to make fresh duck, I found this recipe. Maybe DU had it or somewhere. It's like a duck schnitzel, where you know, take the breast, you pound it flat, and you bread it up. You know, I've used several different kinds of breading. If every once in a while I'll get hooked up with some morels. If I have morels, I'll use them, or just slice up some mushrooms, make a brown gravy mushroom mix, and do it like a schnitzel, like a German schnitzel.
Okay.
That's probably my favorite way to do it. You know, and then I like using the Cajun fish fry, so it's a little bit spicy, and that's pretty good. But you know, like a lot of my waterfowl and ptarmigan and grouse, I will make summer sausage out of them, because it's something I eat a lot of. You know,
Yeah.
it's you have a party, get together, you pull that out, you slice it up. It's good all year round. You don't have to worry about it sitting around getting freezer burn or anything. But that's kind of my go-to. You know, you know, I've done some other stuff with the ducks. I made it like an orange, like a kind of like a what is it called? The orange teriyaki, orange chicken type recipe. Only thing I use duck. Duck stroganoff. I've had that. That's really good. But so them are probably my 3 go-tos, and then the majority of my birds I will do into the summer sausages. You know, and at the end of the year, so like my February, March, I think last year my neighbor and we processed, I don't know, 50 some pounds of birds without mixture into it.
Wow.
Damn.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's all different kinds. That's ptarmigan. That's some sand hills. That's some, you know, the waterfowl. You know, the ducks and geese we shot. So it's a combination.
With your sausage, do you guys do you use any filler with it, or?
You know, I usually will, because you know
Yeah.
that duck meat's so lean.
Yeah.
I'll take some pork or bacon. I've mixed that in there before. It works pretty good. Like I said, I really like that, because it's easy to share, it's easy to pull out of the freezer, and it's always good. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what's your favorite to eat out of all the birds you hunt?
So top of the list is Pacific Brant, and the next one down is Sandhill Crane, and the one below that would probably have to be, depending on where you shoot these guys at, probably like a mallard or a wood duck. You know, them two are right there neck and neck. You know, and geez, the widgeon we shoot up here, they're pretty good too. But yeah, I'm not kidding you. That Pacific Brant is like eating a freaking venison steak or something. It is phenomenal.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone say that. Sorry, I had to go cut my AC off. It just fired up and it's obnoxiously loud here. I was gonna Sandhill. I have had Sandhill Crane. I think that's at the top of my list.
Yep.
But like I said, I've never had Brant before, so now I know what I need to try.
right. Yeah. So the Brant, they primarily eat eelgrass all year long.
Yeah.
Or, you know, that's their primary diet, and that, you know, it's like they're eating salad.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to move inside. My neighbor just decided he needed to cut his grass.
You're fine,
I don't know if can you hear that?
What? It's not snow all year round?
Yeah.
I thought it was dark all day.
Right?
No, hey, right now we got a bunch of daylight. I don't think it really gets dark till about, I don't know, midnight or 1 o'clock, something like that.
That's crazy.
Like I
Okay,
said,
so with that now, what is your hunting hours if it doesn't get dark till that time?
It's sunrise to sunset, and you know, you look at it as it's 30 minutes prior to. So, you know, September when we start hunting ducks, it's you know, it's around that 6 o'clock ish.
Okay.
Time period.
I was thinking like, you know, at 11 p.m. you guys are still shooting. I'm gonna be honest here.
No, usually by I want to say by about 8:30, 9 o'clock. You know, around that first couple weeks of September, it's starting to get dark. Yeah.
Yeah. You really had me going there when you said midnight.
Yeah. Well, you know, so June 21st is our longest day of the year, and then so all the way up until June 21st, we're gaining daylight. So we're gaining minutes, and then it's right after June 21st, then it's like, oh crap, winter's coming. We're losing daylight all of a sudden.
and then it's dark, like, right?
It's not as bad as you think. So, well,
it sounds bad though. They make it sound bad.
Yeah, the further north you go, the worse it is. Here where I live, it's like, you know, it probably gets light around 10 o'clock and it's dark around 3-ish. Now that's like your December, January. But, you know, come February, it's, you know, it's staying light. We're getting 12-hour days, like that February, March. You're getting 12, 13, 14 hours, 12 hours, maybe something like that.
Damn.
I mean, and it's just great. I mean, and usually the weather during that time is in the mid 30s, and it's just beautiful. And that, you know, I do a lot of ptarmigan hunting during that time of the year.
Yeah.
So we're going out in snow machines, and you get a good solid 8 hours of hunting if you need or want it.
Yeah.
You know, so
that's I don't know. That's crazy. Like, you know, and all my crazy weird thoughts in my head about Alaska are majority based off Hollywood. So
yeah, I mean that's all I know about it.
And like rumors, you know, I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, fucking Alaska is just dark all the time.
Yeah. hey, when you get time, Google Alaska outdoors.
Okay. So I'm actually looking at Google, and I googled Alaska, and there's a moose just randomly like out there in the city.
Oh yeah,
like, it looks like he's downtown. Do you guys get moose like that?
Yeah, just here last week, I had a cow and 2 calves walking right in front of my house down the street. It's just, yeah. And then to be honest with you, I mean, we have bears around here too, but to be honest with you, I'm just as afraid as a cow moose with a calf than I am a bear. Maybe even more so, because you know they don't mess around. A bear, you can pretty much predict what they're going to do. A cow moose, yeah, she might get after you, or she might not, but most likely she's going to stomp you if she gets to you. So I keep my distance. I respect the moose a lot.
So they're like deer then, city deer almost. for us down here. Is that how it is?
What's that?
Like they're basically like city deers down here in the lower 48. You just see them and it's a normal thing.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, that's after you're
That's
up here for a
crazy.
while. I mean, you see a moose. Oh, hey, that's cool. In the first couple of years, you might stop and take a picture of it, or if it's a cow and a calf, you'll snap a picture and send it to friends in the lower 48. Because look what was running down my street today, or in my backyard. But it's a pretty normal occurrence. I mean, even though we're in Anchorage here or Eagle River, I mean, within 45 minutes, a half hour, you can be out in the middle of nowhere. Like I'm looking up the valley right now, and Eagle River Road runs up there. It's 10 miles, whatever it is up, and at the end of that, there's nothing, and it's pure wilderness. I mean, and the river that's right below my house, I mean, it has a salmon running up and down it. I mean, so there's bears, there's wolves, there's fox, there's coyotes and lynx. I mean, we don't see a lot of the lynx and some of that stuff, but there's I mean, we're here. We're in the wilderness.
That's awesome. What other big game? What other kind of hunting besides like birds do you do? Have you tried big game, or like what's your best big game story?
Let's see, best big game story. So I do big game, and actually my big game hunt this year will cut into my waterfowl hunt, because I'm leaving on the 6th of September. I drive over to my buddy's house about 3-4 hours away. Then we go drive up to Coldfoot, Alaska, and we fly into the Brooks Range, and we do a 2-week float hunt. And we get dropped off in the river, and we're on the river for 2 weeks hunting. We can shoot caribou, moose, sheep, bears. Usually only grizzly bears are up there, not many black bears, and wolves. So I mean, and you're out in the middle. I mean, I think the pilot, we're about an hour and a half in the otter or beaver before he puts us on the river we're hunt. So and we do that.
That sounds like the stuff I'll see in the movies or on TV.
Yeah, I mean,
the way you're explaining it, I'm just like, wow.
I mean, I'm dumbfounded. Like I don't even want to talk about duck hunting anymore.
Even like duck hunting, everything not everything. A lot of our hunts in Alaska are logistically challenging. So even though the area I duck hunt is only straight line distance from my house, probably less than 10 miles or so, it takes me a half an hour to get to the boat ramp, and probably 40 minutes to get down the slough to where the camp is. And then we put our camp in, and then we stay right there in the marsh for 3 days, shoot our 3-man possession limit, and then we come back out. And normally as the season gets later, the first 2-3 times we'll go down there, I'll stay for 3 days.
Yeah.
And then after that, then I'm staying, maybe overnight, maybe just buzz down the night before, hunt that next morning, and then come back out.
Yeah.
But I mean, we have, I mean, and a lot, I mean, that's kind of the common practice. People go down, put in duck camps, and you go there, you live out of a tent, hope the tide doesn't flood you out.
So do you, on your average hunt, I mean, are you guys hitting your limits every hunt pretty much?
For about the first 3 weeks, it's pretty consistent. And then, I've been in, late season, as the birds are coming through or not coming through. I mean, there's been times you go down, you don't shoot your limit every time. It's just, and it turns more into hunting. Geez, I went down there before, it sat out, and it's been a bluebird day, and I hadn't seen a duck flying all day. I'm like, well, it's time to, this is mid-October, so it's like, well, it's time to get out of here. But and there's options. There's some spots along that slough where I stop and I jump shoot birds and do stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
that was gonna be actually one of my questions I wanted to know is like what kind of environments do you guys hunt in? Because like we talk about on here, I mean, I hunt timber marshes, bigger lakes, but they're really like cypress lakes and stuff. Alabama was pretty similar, same thing, sloughs and timber. What kind of environments are you guys in as far as waterfowling?
So where I do most of my waterfowl hunting here, and where I hunted up in the interior in Fairbanks, it's you're running down a slough. It's all down. Well, let's start out in Anchorage here. It's tidal marsh. So
Yeah.
we have huge tide swings. I think high is like 36-foot tides. And drops
Wow.
all the way down.
Yeah.
A lot of right where I hunt is cattails. A lot of cattails. No vegetation per se. Within after the cattails, it's usually small scrub.
Yeah.
Maybe not even calf high type of bushes. You'll have some small trees here and there, little pockets of trees.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of that. And the water itself is not that deep. Where the specific place where I hunt, I mean, after the last big earthquake we had, it kind of boiled the bottom of the marsh up. So I mean, it went from usually being chest deep to now maybe waist or thigh deep.
Yeah.
And then it starts off pretty relatively moderate temperatures early season, and then as you push into mid-October, you're getting some skim ice in the water, and then by the end of October, most of the standing water's all froze up. And then you're kind of at that point you're moving on to maybe jump shooting some stuff off of the running streams, or you're moving to sea ducks at that point.
Okay.
Yep.
Huh. That's I don't. I'm still kind of just in like a daze of Alaska, but I wanted to ask you like where would you love to go hunt? Like what your dream state would be? But I feel like that's a hard question.
Besides Alaska.
Yeah. Well, I a few years ago, one of my buddies, he went up hunted the East Coast.
Yeah.
And and that's definitely on my bucket list. I'd love to go up there and just shoot a bunch of the sea ducks up there. Old squaws on my list.
Yeah.
The Atlantic brant. And so that whole area, I'd like to do a trip up there where I hit 2 or 3 states. I got some buddies up in Maine. Actually, my neighbor and I bought a really cheap sea duck hunt up in Maine for this year, which I don't think neither one of us are going to be able to do. But
okay.
that's on my list. That whole East Coast thing. I got a bunch of old ex-military buddies that live there. I got some folks from the North American Versatile Hunting Dog Association. They some guys I know from that. Running these versatile dogs. I know them up there. So that's something I'd probably like to do in the future. But I went down to Canada 2 years ago. We went down there and hunted Canadians out in the field.
Yeah.
And that was like super awesome because we're shooting mallards and Canadians, and they you couldn't keep the mallards out of your decoys. You'd be out there or have the dogs out picking up birds. You'd be out picking up birds, and the mallards is still trying to be coming in.
It's crazy.
And the geese are the same way. You shoot them, boom, boom, boom. They all come in. They do a circle and they want to get right back in the decoys. I'm like,
you got a great spread going there.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty cool hunt. And then and we did that in the morning, knocked out our birds, and by noon we were out running. We found a couple farmers' fields we could hunt Hungarian partridge in. So we were out. I had my dog with me. We're out doing that. So that's a pretty good hunt down there.
I think we all agreed last week that I think Canada was like at the top of our list of places we wanted to hunt. Canada and Alaska.
Yeah.
I think you sold me though. I think Alaska's at the very top. I don't think Canada's even in question.
I think this whole 50 states waterfowl thing is just for Thad and I to decide where we're gonna go.
We're planning our our vacation.
That's not a bad way to get it done.
So we're just interviewing everybody.
We're not going to Alabama.
Yeah, that's off the list.
I do have a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
That I want to ask. That are some of the more generic ones. I want to get. We're kind of taking polls. What kind of shotgun do you use?
Well, so in the early season, a duck season, I shoot a Beretta Silver Pigeon 20 gauge over under.
Okay.
Yep. And then I from the cranes, geese, I will I got a Browning. I got a Browning Silver and then a Browning A5. I shoot both of those depending on the day, whatever I feel like grabbing. And those are kind of my go-to guns. I really like hunting my over-under. I like to get the ducks right in the decoys, feet down. That's kind of what I really like. So the 20 gauge does great on all the ducks. And I've shot sandhills with my 20 gauge. You just got to pick your shots a little better.
Last week Thad was just making fun of me for owning a 20 gauge. I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah,
I was.
I shoot normally, 2s or 3s, 3-inch number 2s or 3s out of it.
Yeah.
I really like the heavy metal. I shot them. I shoot some Kent Fast Steel. I mean, I shoot a various shells, but I mean, usually number 2s or number 3s. That's my go-to. The heavy metal is if I can find them, that's what I buy. If I can't find them, then I'll go to the heavy steel. If I can't find that, I'll go to the Kent Fast Steel. And I think it all comes down to hitting the bird. But the heavy metal, it really does have an effect. And I've shot the Heavy X before, and that stuff is pretty amazing too. But I think it comes down to whatever I can get my hands on at the time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm actually surprised that you use an over and under for the beginning of the season instead of just sticking with your A5.
You know what? If I had so in the beginning of the season, usually your groups of birds coming into your decoys, a lot of times, unless it's teal, it's less than 6. It's 6-8 birds at the most. I have a couple memorable experiences last year. I took my buddy Tim out. He'd never been. He was duck hunting before, but he hadn't done it for a long time. We were out. Couple mallards are going across. I give them a couple calls. Bam, they turned in. They came right in. 4 of them. Boop, locked up. Boom, boom. I shot the 2 on the left. He shot the 2 on the right. Done deal. You know what I mean? So it kind of extends my time out in the marsh hunting maybe by a minute or two. But what I've realized is I don't shoot as many shells.
Yeah.
And I usually shoot my birds faster. Because that last shot is a lot of times. Well, not a lot. Sometimes it's like, well, the birds are going away. You're shooting. It's like, well, shit, I didn't get them. But
I was about to say that too. Like, usually my third shot is just a prayer. It's either a prayer or a cleanup shot. Like they're already on the ground, but if they're crippled and you're cleaning them up with that last shell, either that or like you miss your first 2 and then your pride gets the best of you and you just spray one.
By that point, they're already long gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's only one time that I can really, one experience in my hunting within the last, 10 years. I guess ever since I've been shotgun hunting that I really am glad I had this third shot. I was out in South Dakota hunting pheasants and grouse. I had both my dogs on point. I walked up, a sharp-tailed grouse gets up. I shoot that one. Another one got up right before I shot that one. Another one got up right after that, and I shot that one. And that was that's a rare occurrence. But that's a pretty memorable experience. I'm like, damn, I'm glad I had my A5 and not my Brett.
Yeah.
That's and Vang, when you have that many ducks, it doesn't matter if you can only shoot 2 at a time because 500 more are coming. You're not worried about it.
Yeah, at that point.
And early season they're pretty stupid. We don't. You guys probably have a lot tougher time down there, I can imagine, than we do up here. up here, you put your decoys out. Really, when I very first started, I didn't know. I mean, I knew what I read on the internet. And I hunted down in Washington, got kind of going down there on decoys and stuff like that. And then I got up to Alaska and I started doing more of it. And that's all I look forward to is waterfowl hunting. But I mean, you can just throw up half a dozen ducks out there, decoys out there, and you can get birds to come in. It's not like you have to have a perfect setup or anything like that.
Oh yeah. See, well, and that's being at the top of the flyway. I mean, you're the ones educating the birds.
And we do that.
We don't we even like opening weekend, like they're already decoy wise. I mean, they're very finicky here. Like you said, I do agree, especially way down here. Like I told you earlier, we're at the bottom of the flyway, so
right.
All the migrating birds we get have flown over thousands of decoys. They've been shot at multiple times, I'm sure. I mean, they've been called at and hunted. I mean, and pressured for however many months. Because, our duck season doesn't even open until mid to late November.
Right.
When most people's in the north is going out. So they've already been hunted for like 2 months by the time we get them, 3 months. So yeah, they're very, very, very wise. They're hunt wise. The wood ducks, like I said, they're kind of like your ducks up there. They're here year round. I mean, they're just used to it. They're not as finicky, but yeah, when we start like puddle ducks, I mean, they're very, very weary, and we have to really, you really have to scout here and be in the right spot. Your hide is so important. Your decoy spread. I mean, everything really has to work out perfectly for you to be finishing birds and shooting ducks at 20 yards away.
Right. And it kind of the same goes up here. Like the concealment part is a little bit more important.
Yeah.
The decoys, I think, is as long as you are where the birds want to be, I think the decoys can be out there in any form of fashion, basically. And there's some who might argue on this, but from my experience, I could put them out there. And, when I set my decoys, I set them out like I see the ducks together on the marsh at that time. In a lot of early season, there are 2, 3, 4 birds, so I'll set a group of, 3, 4, 5 birds here, have some mallards over on this side, have some teal over here, and then maybe have a couple divers out in front of me. Yeah. And that's kind of my setup, and it works, because I mean, we got such a wide variety of birds that we can decoy in, and a lot of the birds, they kind of, I mean, they don't group together. I mean, the cans and the bluebills, they'll kind of be out in the more open water by themselves. You'll have the widgeon and the mallard and the gadwalls and teal. They'll be, back closer to shore, but, they might be mixed somewhere in between. So you just kind of, I try to set my decoys out like I see the birds at that time of year, in smaller groups, smaller family groups out in the marsh.
Yeah. No, I heard that. I'm glad you brought that up though, because we catch a lot of flack down here for, oh, you guys don't kill shit. And it's like, even if we do get a lot of like birds, I mean, I feel like we do have to hunt harder here than the northern states do.
Oh yeah, there's no question in my mind that you guys have to do. When I was in Kansas, my very first real duck hunt, my brother-in-law, he's the one that kind of really got me into the waterfowl hunting. He grew up in La Crosse, Wisconsin, hunting in Mississippi a lot. He did some stuff out in South Dakota, but I was stationed down in Fort Riley, Kansas, and he came down, and he wanted to go, we did some pheasant hunting, but he wanted to go duck hunting. And I didn't have a clue. I said, I don't know where to go, Earl. I said, we can go here, there. I said, we drove around, scouted out some spots. And so the next morning we got up and we jumped in my 1974 Bronco, and me, him, and my daughter, we went out, got out to the lake, and it was frozen. There's about 1/8 inch ice on top of the water.
Yeah.
We went out in this little bay and we stomped the ice all off and kicked it out. And here, I'm like knee boots. I didn't even own a set of waders. So he kicked all the ice off, and I was like, okay, so we go stand back in these cattails, and we probably had a 40-yard square of ice broken off, and I bet we weren't there for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And these mallards just started pouring in. They seen the open water and a few decoys, and they just started coming in. We were shooting, and we shot a 2-man limit. I don't know, within 45 minutes or something like that. And I was like, holy cow, is this what duck hunting's about? That was fun. We did like 2 or 3 mornings in a row, and it was just, right time, right place. And then I hunted them a few times after that down there, but then, next year I moved to Alaska. So I got up to, Fairbanks, and then I think it was that second year he came up to Fairbanks, and we did a moose hunt. We're not successful, but we went down to this area called Minto Flats. And it was the same way we've actually, let's see, the first year we took a boat down. We pulled the boat like 8-9 miles over this dirt trail down to this little creek, went down the slough back into the, these Minto Flats, this big marsh. And we just camped, and we shot all kinds of birds. There's 3 of us. We shot our 3-day limit. We were done. We came back out. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't know where I was going with that story.
No,
Yeah.
so it's safe to say that your waterfowling career has been pretty spoiled.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
And you have to thank your brother-in-law for that.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, down in Kansas, I didn't have to work that hard. When I was out in Washington, them birds were a little smarter. Probably not as smart as the birds you guys get, but you had to be pretty well hidden. Your decoys had to be somewhat set up right. And at that point, I was just kind of learning how to do all that. So, but I shot a fair amount of birds. I didn't come back with my limit every day, but we didn't have a ton of birds down there either. I shot a lot of, ringnecks and bluebills and mallards and some wood ducks yeah, it was all fun. It was that learning experience,
That's all. No, I mean that's badass. That's what I'm like most excited for. Is like my whole life, my waterfowl hunting has sucked. So I think when I finally find that place, it's just gonna be like this nice slice.
You might just end up moving there.
Heaven. Honestly, yeah, that's what I'm really worried about is going on like a trip and then I'm just gonna be like, hey, Maddie, we're selling the house and we're leaving. Like I found the place I want to be.
Hey, they do have Marines up here in Alaska, right?
They do. I had a buddy who was up there. He wasn't into hunting or anything, but
oh, what a waste.
Yeah, he just went to the.
It really is.
He just went to the gym all the time. So to each his own, I guess. But yeah. I have a couple questions. I did a little poll on our Instagram account where people can ask you some questions. I have a couple questions from our followers. I want to pound out real quick, and then we'll call it a night. Jacob Coleman, he asked, "Is it difficult for you to find areas to hunt around where you're at?"
You know what? So me being an Army guy moving up here, yes. I mean, it wasn't super difficult, but there's limited areas where you can go. Alaska's a big state, and you'd think, oh man, there'd be hunting everywhere. But I mean, it's really concentrated around my area into about 4 locations that are pretty good, just locally, stuff that you can do on the weekend, and do that. Fairbanks, it's even a little bit more limited if you're just hunting around Fairbanks up in the interior. The beginning of the season, you basically got a couple areas right around Fairbanks, that Minto Flats area, which is logistically challenging to get out to.
Yeah.
And then as you move south, there's areas south of there where they have big wheat fields and stuff like that where you can go down and hunt. But a lot of the duck hunting isn't necessarily on them fields. It's, in the rivers, and then catch. And, I've never done that portion up there. If you if you're out in Western Alaska, I mean, like I said, Alaska's a
Yeah.
huge state. So I'm going by Anchorage and Fairbanks, the two most popular places for people to end up at.
Yeah.
So is it hard? Nah, I would say yes and no. You get here, you get on some forums, you connect with like the guys at the Alaska Waterfowl Association. You connect with guys like that.
Yeah.
Folks like me. If you have dogs, there's the Alaska Retriever clubs and all that guy. You get in with folks like that. I run versatile hunting dogs, the NAVDA. You get in with folks like us, and you meet friends, and they take you places.
Yeah, it's like anywhere else.
Yeah. I mean, like I told you before, I can get to the boat ramp in a half an hour. I can be down the river to the camp in 45 minutes, and then you're hunting. And like I said, we stay there 3 days. You don't have to do that. You could hunt off the road, or you could hunt closer. There's opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities for people that want to get out and do it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that answered the question well.
And then if you wanted to do a destination hunt, say you wanted to go to Cold Bay, or you want to come up and do a sea duck hunt, I mean, Cold Bay, depending on where you go, who you go with, it's either a do-it-yourself or, you go in with a guide. And obviously the guide's going to have all the stuff for you. The do-it-yourself hunt, there's 2 of them out there. Them guys, they will have decoys for you. They'll, one guy has a boat and all that stuff, even though you don't really need it if you're just shooting, brant and cacklers and like the emperor goose we could just start hunting up here as residents a few years ago. But and then sea duck hunts, depending on what guy, Valdez, Whittier, Homer, you go there, they take you out 3-4 days, whatever you want to go out for, and they have everything. You show up with your gun, your gear, and that's it. And you're hunting.
Yeah.
So, but as a resident, if you living up here, I mean, you can. There's opportunities. There's plenty of opportunities.
Yeah. So I'd say, I mean, like you said, I think it's comparable pretty much to anywhere else. I mean, some states are known more for their public land access and whatnot, but we have a lot of public land here, but it's not all good public land.
It also sounds like you're not fighting for your hunting spot like some people.
Well, so with that being said, there are a couple locations where you do have a big concentration of people.
Yeah.
And I would rather go to some place where I would only shoot 2 ducks a day than hunt around that.
Right.
Yeah. Heard
but
that.
Yeah, even the area I hunt, I mean, there's only a few of us that go down to this lake. It's hard to get down the slough to. It's shallow. The tide goes out, the water's ankle deep. It's tidal, mud, icky, nasty crap. So I mean, a lot of people just go out for a day will not go that far down the slough.
Yeah.
So but there's plenty of opportunities.
Yeah.
Huh. What duck do you kill the most?
Oh geez, that I seen that on your question thing. That's a hard one to answer because we have such a broad variety of ducks. I if I had to pick one, I would say I shoot a lot of widgeon.
Okay.
Yep. There's a lot of widgeon where I'm at, but I mean, there's mallards. There's we got a fair amount of pintails. Canvasback. If I wanted to shoot more, or if I could shoot more of those, you could definitely shoot more of those. But I would say overall on a normal year, probably widgeon is the duck I shoot the most of.
Okay.
Yep.
This Chris Smith wants to know what is your most useful piece of gear for protection from the elements? I'm assuming he's thinking outside the box since you're from Alaska.
Yes. Yep. So
Sitka. Just kidding.
So I just this year, I haven't even used it yet. I got a Sitka, a wading jacket. But good rain gear. Good, and I have a Kuiu jacket, that rain jacket that I use. It's a Yukon. I mean, I use that, and then I layer underneath of it as needed. I can unzip the pit zips on that thing and hunt in pretty warm weather. It's green, and then I have a brown this Valo camo. It's like a more brown camouflage.
Yeah.
I use that, but I got a couple jackets that I some what's that, blade shadow grass. But I'd say the most useful piece of equipment, good outer garments.
Yeah.
Your waders and your top. For me, it's that Kuiu jacket.
For sure. Yeah, I'd agree. Being windproof and waterproof is probably the most important thing duck hunting.
Oh yeah, by far.
The next question, well, it was a two-part question. We already talked about what state you would go hunt in. What is your dream duck to kill? What's on your top of your bucket list?
Let's see. Top of the bucket list is probably I would really like to shoot an old squaw for mounting purposes.
Yeah.
And then and the same with a good mature Drake wood duck and hen for mounting purposes.
Yeah.
Even though I've shot a bunch of those before in my life, but I have not shot any lately. So that both those birds are high on my list.
Yeah. And then Decalope Outdoors has like 4 questions.
Okay.
He went in hard. Which we already talked about, the sea duck hunting.
Yep.
He wants to know, are all the birds in eclipse?
In eclipse, meaning plumed out.
Yeah, I think we already talked about that as well.
Or not plumed. Yeah. So we don't get any good plumage on birds until really the middle of October. I mean, sometimes you can shoot some decent birds the end of September, early October, but I mean, if you start looking at them close, they still have some pin feathers.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's not till the middle of September that we're shooting any kind of nice colored birds, and they're like, and I go back again, it's nothing like you guys shoot down there that are fully plumed and nice, or even the birds they shoot in the lower 48 Canada in November. I mean, those birds are really nice looking birds. When we were down in Canada, I think it was last October. I mean, we were shooting some beautiful mallards, or 2 years ago, October.
Yeah.
And nothing like we get up here.
Did you ever? I don't know if you saw it, either of you last year. There was someone had posted a picture. They killed it was a wood duck mallard hybrid. It was a drake.
Oh, nope, never seen that.
You guys should Google it. I don't know if you'll be able to find it or not. If I can find it, I'll send it to you. It was by far the prettiest duck I've ever seen. So I think that's at the top of my list, and that'll never happen. But
yeah, you know what? The black duck. That's another one that's kind of on the top of my list. That's going up that whole East Coast. My buddy Frank, he went down he's from Texas. He went down to Texas and did a hunt down there, and they were shooting some pretty nice birds down there too. Pintails and what else did he shoot down there? I forget, but he shot some pretty nice birds down there also. And that was after the first of the year, January, February, or something like that.
Yeah, Texas is a pretty good hot spot, but they're more centralized than the flyway. That's the downside to where we're at in Louisiana, which I'm a believer in, that the flyways are shifting. But we are, even in the original flyways, we were kind of stuck right in between 2 flyways, at least where I'm located.
Are you part of the Mississippi flyway? Central?
Technically, the Mississippi. And eastern Louisiana is. I'm in like northwest Louisiana, so I'm like Arkansas is 40 minutes north of us, and Texas is like 20 minutes west of us. So we're basically, we're literally in between Mississippi and Central Flyway. Yeah. So it's hard for us to catch a lot of migrating birds, where I'm at anyway.
Yeah,
Eastern and southern Louisiana, they usually catch a decent migration though.
Yeah, I've heard, I got buddies up in northeast Iowa and southwest Wisconsin, and they said they have noticed that the migration through there in the last 10 to 15, maybe even 20 years has decreased.
Yeah.
It's not nearly as good as what it used to be.
Well, and That's a whole nother podcast we could do on that topic.
That really is. We had that conversation last week.
Yeah,
too.
we dug into that a little bit last week. I was kind of baiting for some questions. I like some controversy, but especially with the southern states, they're pretty adamant about hating Northerners for no ducks. But another question is, he wanted to know, have you ever went after a king eider?
No, I have not. No, I mean, for king eiders, you got to be pretty committed, and one day I will. But I mean, a king eider hunt, is a, $6,000-7,000 hunt for a few birds. And what a great experience it'd be. My buddy Hugh Clarkey, I told you, he went out there with Alaska Outdoors, and you probably YouTube it there. I think the episode is on YouTube where he went out and done that hunt, and it, it's an epic hunt. I mean, the weather conditions are just crazy. You got big waves, rain. It's a dream hunt, I say. But I mean, holy cow, it's pretty nasty and rough, and you better be in the right mindset, I think.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think that's on everyone's list, and I think, like you said, that's probably one of the last birds that most people will ever actually check off their list.
Yeah.
I know to complete my list, I've got a lot more to go. So that's really towards the end of my list. If I ever get to the point where I'm actually thinking about that to complete my list, then I think I'd have the commitment to be able to invest the money and time into fulfilling that one. But we're gonna have to wrap it up. We're running hot, man. Scott, I can't thank you enough. This is by far, the funnest podcast that I've got the chance to do, and probably since Flying V Outdoors started, the funnest thing I've got to do.
Thanks, Dad.
No offense, Vang. I mean, you were a great guest, and like I said, I think my whole life I've always kind of had this like awesome fascination for Alaska as it is, and then you really just came in like fulfilled all my dreams.
Like you definitely made jaw-dropping stories.
Yeah, you confirmed everything that I've always imagined. So for that, you're kind of like a superhero. So again, I thank you so much for that. I think you represented Alaska perfectly. I don't know if anyone could have done it better. If they could have, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. It was hard enough. Normally I'm more talkative. I couldn't even fucking get some words out. That's how like just dumbfounded I was. So thank you again, Scott. I do want to say thank you to all the listeners as well for all the support that you guys have shown the podcast so far. And I got a lot of feedback on that first episode. And some recognition, for the work and all this, the logistical side of this. And it has been a nightmare, like I said. But just this one episode alone here with Alaska, it's completely made up for the month and a half of planning it took to get this sucker going. So I appreciate all of you guys.
Thanks, Scott.
If you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button for us, guys. And stick around because we've got 48 more weeks of this shit to go. If you're listening on Spotify, go ahead and hit that follow button.
I appreciate you having me on and letting me represent the state of Alaska and just share my experiences. You guys are doing awesome stuff. You're just getting the word out about waterfowling, I think that's how we grow the sport. We got to get the word out there. We got to talk to people about it.
That's right.
Thanks for what you're doing.
Oh, for sure. And then Scott, make sure you save my number. That way, when I call you in like 2 years, I'm like, "Hey, man, I booked a fucking flight."
Yeah.
I land in Anchorage on this day. That way, you're not blindsided.
I need 3 months heads up, fellas. 3 months.
3 months.
Okay.
I can do that. All right. Well, Scott, thank you again. Vang, thank you for your time as well. And thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next week.
Have a good one.